Hello. In this video I'm going to show you how I made the head section of this stitch puppet out of paper. Welcome along. My name is Ben Stanley and I design and create paper-based working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters and creatures. So if papercraft's your thing or you just like what you see, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. So this stitch puppet, hello, has been a bit of a labour of love for me. It's taken about 6 months to design and the build process itself is about 24 hours. So rather than put together a monster length video, I'm going to split this into two. Today, as I say, I'm going to talk about the head and then I'll show you in the next video how I made the body. Now, I think it's safe to say that most of you watching this probably aren't going to do this build, and that's fine. You're obviously here just interested in seeing how it's done, and I'm going to show you that in plenty of detail. But you know what? I think there are a select few of you out there that are looking at it and thinking, I'm going to give this a go. And to you, I say, brilliant, that's amazing, do it. But I'm going to give you a small warning. This one is bloody tricky. So I know you, but I know you're going to rise to the challenge, and I cannot wait to hear how you get on with it. So you know what? We've got a lot to get through, so should we crack on? Yeah. This is how I made the head section of this stitch puppet out of paper. Stitch is made out of 35 sheets of A4 paper, 9 paper fasteners, 4 sticks of glue, 4 mini magnets, 3 paper clips and 1 bamboo barbecue skewer. So we're starting with Stitch's face, which consists of 2 separate equal parts being glued together, and the side of the paper that you can see will become the inside of the head. I'm not going to show you much of the gluing process itself, but I'll show you all the bits where the pieces are glued together, which is hopefully going to give you enough information if you're up for this challenge. I used 160 GSM thickness paper for every part of this puppet, regardless of the colour, and I don't recommend using anything thinner than that, or to be honest, anything much thicker. 160 GSM is a good balance between the strength and flexibility that's needed. So these lighter blue eye sections glue in at the back, and for the glued edges of the tab to line up, they need to be teased into place slightly to allow for the three-dimensionality of the head section that they're being glued into. Once in place, you just need to recut a few bits where the tabs of the eye section have overlapped the cuts where the nose is going to slot in. Let's call this the under nose. It's added to establish the darkness of the nostrils, and it glues on just inside the cut marks that the nose itself are going to slot into. This is the nose itself, which is glued in 2 places to give it 3-dimensionality. There's a large tab to glue into place and then a smaller tab just above it, and these together give the bridge of the nose its shape. These round tabs at the top of the nose section slide into place through the pre-cut slots, followed by the smaller tabs at the sides, and then this curved tab at the bottom. The bottom tab gets glued and trimmed, and then we glue the rest of the tabs into place at the back. And that's your nose, which will now hold nice and tight in place. So then we're back to the eyes. These extra strengtheners, which I'm gluing over the hole, are 3 layers of paper thick and taken from the cutouts of the eyelid sections that I'm going to show you later on. Once we've re-punctured the holes, you then put the paper fasteners through them. The flat edges of the 2 paper fasteners will sit at 90-degree angles to each other, with the one that will eventually be furthest from the nose sitting parallel to the edge of the section, which is going to help the movement of the eyes later on. That isn't a great instruction, but you can hopefully see what I mean, and it will become clear soon enough once you start constructing the eye blinking mechanism. Then these bits are folded over and glued down to hide the ends of the fasteners from view. Additionally, and ideally before gluing them in place, which I didn't do, I recommend using a permanent marker to blacken the surface of the paper fasteners so they draw less visible attention later on. Both of these eye sockets then glue in behind the other light blue eye sockets that we previously glued in. Then we're onto the mouth section, and you'll see I'm adding lots of additional bits of strengthening paper which I just cut out from remaining bits of paper of the template, and these are going along where the fold is, as where it folds it can potentially rip quite easily, especially on the edges where it's going to take extra pressure. so to be safe, I'm just piling on the strengtheners. This is going to be the thumb strap, which is going to allow the mouth to open and close. So it slots through the cuts, then glues at the back, allowing enough space for the tip of your thumb to pass into the loop that you've created. This is going to be a tooth. All the teeth are made the same way, each folding into a mini cone. Half of the teeth templates are mirror images of the others so that they look nice and balanced in the mouth on each side of the jaw. Here you can see the cone coming together, and each final tooth is pretty sturdy. Once done, you can just add them all in. The final template I think has a couple more teeth at the back of the mouth, which are just flat circles of paper rather than 3D cones. So next we tease this cut line slightly open and glue another piece of paper across the gap to help create more space for the thumb. We then repeat this on the other side to help create a nice little hollow for the thumb, which again helps us to close the mouth as much as the teeth will allow. Then we add a final strip of paper that's going to hold the mouth section in place around your thumb as it moves up and down, working the mouth. This is the tongue. It folds in a very similar way to the nose from earlier to create a similar rounded shape. The long end feeds through the thumb hole, and these tabs at the front then glue down just inside the circle of teeth. The central tab on the tip of the tongue will be needed to slot into the thumb loop as it's glued in. The front of the tongue should feel three-dimensional, the back of the tongue flat. The tail of the tongue section then glues into place on the other side of the mouth section. For gluing the mouth to the face, there is a guideline on the inside of the face section. The important bit is that the very corners of the mouth line up exactly with the relevant corner edges of the face section. These mouth corners are where there's going to be the most stress on the paper, so you can see I've added these extra blue strengthener tabs on top of the originals. These sections are going to help make the eyelid opening and closing mechanism nice and smooth. And you'll see how important that is later on. Without it, the eye mechanism just won't open and close. Everything's going to get jammed. These three hook-shaped pieces will glue together to make one top eyelid. It has a corresponding bottom eyelid section. Both have mirror image versions for the other eye. The part I'm cutting out here is what I used to strengthen the eye socket section earlier. And these are the 4 completed eyelid sections. The next parts of the eye mechanism are the 2 finger levers. These are the components that we put our fingers in to move the mechanism up and down to open and close the eyes. These circular additions will help guide the lever once in place and keep the mechanism together. They both glue together here, and then we're going to put some extra strengthening strips above and below them. The second lever, which is made the same way, is slightly longer due to the position the fingers need to be in when operating the eyes to open and close. And the flat edge you can see will help stop the mechanism jamming. I've added this section of the video to show you as clearly as possible how the mechanism fits together and works, because as you'll see in a second, when I start putting everything into the head, it's impossible to see how everything fits together. Here you can see clearly how it all layers up, what goes above what goes below what, and how the finger levers work. With the paper fasteners, it's going to be really important to bend them towards their very ends so that the paper pieces hold together but have space to move freely without too much friction. These pink strips are threaded through to help guide the levers up and down, and also to stop the eyelid section rubbing up against each other and sticking. And this is the movement that we're looking for. Now, as you can see, when we're onto the real thing, we really have to curve these eyelid sections around because they're going to be working in 3 dimensions rather than just 2. So I'm putting these sections in here exactly the same way that I put them onto the piece of paper before, but it's now just working around the inside of this sphere, which makes the mechanism a lot more difficult to open and close. It took me a lot of time and several adjustments to get it to work smoothly. I've tried translating that as much as possible to the template, but it isn't a perfect fit as we're asking a lot of the paper. These black sections are the eyes themselves. They help to lock off the mechanism and keep it all hidden from the front, and it's only once you've added them that you actually fold the paper fasteners at the ends. Then our guide rails from earlier are threaded in and glued in place at the top and the bottom. So then thumb operates the mouth, the index and ring fingers operate the eyes, and I designed it so that the middle finger can reset the eyes to open if they get stuck. And this is a bit of extra strengthening for the head, but your fingers can still fit through there. Here we're adding not pupils but the light reflections in Stitch's black eyes. This is going to be the lower part of the jaw, and it's also the section that will attach the head to the body, so this cone here is going to be really important for allowing a tight connection of the head and body, a smooth turn of the head and strength for holding the body weight. Here we've got the front of the lower jaw. A bit of folding and gluing gives a little upturn, and it's really important to add an extra strengthener there, otherwise it's not going to hold. Then we're adding this dark blue layer. The only bit of this layer that we're actually going to see are the flaps at the bottom once they're folded into place, but this extra layer does give it a lot more strength. The tabs that I'm folding here will be how we attach the bottom of the jaw to the head. Which is the next job. So here we're doing exactly that. We're attaching the bottom jaw to the bottom section of the mouth. And again, it's really key that we make sure that the corners and the section of the mouth really line up exactly together. Otherwise, it's quite possible that it'll start ripping quite easily as you open and close the mouth. Then this section is the back of the head, and this is just going to be folded and glued into a slightly semi-spherical shape. The tabs are gently folded down and then glued into the back of the head. So obviously this is giving you slightly limited space to get your hand in, but there's still enough room to do it. Now this is coming a little late in the video, but there is never a bad time to remind you that all of the gluing that takes place here is going to take a lot longer than I'm showing. You need to hold the pieces together for up to 2 minutes in order for them to bond properly. And then we're onto the ears. We're using magnets here, one in each ear glues between the 2 layers, so this magnet in the corner of the ear will attract to a magnet we're going to put on the inside of the head in a second. What that's going to do is allow the ears to point upwards when needed. But when you want them to point down, you can just flick them down, breaking the magnetic attraction so that they flop down. So there's already a cut in the front section of the face for the ear to slot into, but it's not long enough, so we need to measure the length of the ear section to see how far we need to extend that incision into the back of the head section, so that it's going to fit through well. We add the markings to the back of the head, then we glue the very base of the jaw together on both sides. So the ears glue in through the slots with the tab glued above the cut line on the inside so the ears naturally hang down. There's a second magnet, and that sticks on the inside of the head directly behind where the ear magnet sits on the outside. And of course we add a magnet in on the other side for the other ear as well. Then, as I mentioned, they can just hang down, or if you flick them up, they will stay up with the strength of the magnets. And then there's the last bit of preparation to attach the head to the body by puncturing the hole for the paper fastener, and that's your Stitch head, the first part completed. So there you have it, Stitch's head made out of paper, and that's half the job done. So if you want to find out more about how the body is constructed, then you can check out part 2, which is going to be available over here as soon as I've published it. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about the design process, then you can check out this video up here as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching for now. If you've got any questions, then shoot them over in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in part 2. Bye for now.